So hi everyone, I'm gonna wait a little bit longer just for everyone to join the session and then we will get started very soon. So hi everyone, my name is Evelyn and welcome to the Stepping Up to A-Level Maths session. So I am a university student. I study mathematics. I'm studying for my master's at the University of Birmingham. And today, tomorrow and Thursday, we will be going through a Stepping Up to A-Level Maths course. So let me share this new screen quickly. So just in case you guys went in the session in the morning and the GCSE session in the morning, our sessions, as I said, will be running from today, tomorrow and Thursday. The sessions will be 1 hour long. And if you have any questions, make sure you put them in the Q&A section. And throughout the session, I'll be asking you guys questions. So make sure to put your answers in the chat. Right, so we're going to start off our session today with trigonometry. Now, throughout the session, we will be understanding what is required of students for AS Maths. We'll be going through key differences between GCSE and A-Level Maths, and we are going to be recalling some GCSE trigonometry and introduce A-Level trigonometry as well. So let's get started with the first part. So the AS syllabus for pure maths have the following topics. So we've got proof, algebra and functions, coordinate geometry in the X and Y plane, sequences and series, trigonometry, exponentials and logarithms, differentiation, integration, and vectors. Now, the ones that I've highlighted in blue are topics that we'll be briefly going through the next 3 days. But there are only 2 topics here which you are probably, or 2 or 3 topics here which you're probably not very familiar with. The others, you've already studied parts of those topics already at GCSE. So things like proof, algebra, trigonometry, and vectors are something that you definitely already go through at GCSE. So really with AS, it's about bridging that gap between GCSE and A-level maths. And that's what we'll be going through today as well. So just a overview of the exam structure. No matter which exam board you're studying for, you will be taking 2 papers containing pure maths topics, statistics topics, and mechanics. In AS and A-level, the structure between the exam boards differ. So with GCSE, you might have noticed that they were pretty much very, very similar. The content was very similar and the exam structure is very similar. AS and A-level, it changes a little bit. So I've just sort of highlighted the main differences at the bottom. So if you're taking the Edexcel spec, you'll have 2 papers. The first paper is pure maths. The second paper is statistics and mechanics. The statistics and mechanics one is a little bit shorter than the Edexcel one. For OCR, you've got pure maths and statistics as your first paper, pure maths and mechanics as your second paper. They're exactly the same in length and worth the same amount of marks. So it's 50% for each exam. And the AQA spec is similar to the OCR, only that it's swapped the other way around. Paper 1 is pure maths and mechanics, and paper 2 is pure maths and statistics. So someone's asked, how long is the AQA paper 2? It should be 1 hour and 30 minutes. Sorry, I've missed out the 30. So yeah, that is 1 hour and 30 minutes. So they're exactly the same length. The only one that's not the same in length is the Edexcel one. Right, so let's go on to exam structure. Now, they changed the exam structure. So the AS and A levels that I took are a little bit different from the ones that you guys will eventually take. Your AS grade does not actually count towards your A level qualification. If you decide to continue and do A level maths in year 13, you have to, whatever grade you get for your A level is from the exams that you take at the end of year 13. The grades that you get in your AS, and that's the exam that you take in year 12, does not count towards the grade that you get in year 13. Now, and that's what's changed since 2017. Now, the AS level qualification will be graded, and you'll get a certificate on a 5-grade scale. So it's between A and E. You cannot get an A star at AS level. You can only get an A star at A level. So don't be alarmed if you get an A and you think that you deserve more, because A is the highest grade for AS level. You'll be graded on your combined score between both of the papers, not on the individual exams. So you take 2 papers, you will not get a grade for paper 1 and paper 2. You'll just get a grade for the combined score. So you have to do very well in both to get a very high score. Now, again, another thing that has changed from the previous specification is you don't have a choice in the type of topics you get to study. You must study both mechanics and statistics. It used to be a choice, now it's compulsory. You have to do both. So you have to study both mechanics and statistics, but it's a little bit less content than the original or the previous A levels. But one thing which I would like to point out as well when it comes to your AS exams is that regardless of whichever specification you take, whether it's AQA where you have a mix of pure maths in both papers, or Edexcel where you only have pure maths in the first paper, pure mathematics in general can come up in any paper regardless. So if you were taking the Edexcel specification and you got to the mechanics and statistics paper, things like algebra, functions, integration, things like that will still come up in that paper. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't study pure maths for that exam, because there are things which you will still need to know. Right, some key requirements. So remember important equations which are not given in a formula sheet. So for your AS and your A-level exams, you will be given a formula sheet. However, it does not have every single equation that you will need for your exam. So you do need to memorize some of them. You also need to use appropriate and the correct mathematical notation. That's really important. You will lose marks if you don't use that. Construct mathematical arguments, proof, and use mathematical language. Solve equations using mathematical problems solving skills, and translate a situation in context into a mathematical model. All of these key requirements are pretty much the same key requirements that you have for GCSE maths. Nothing has really changed in that respect. All of these things you still need to do for GCSE maths. Now, here are the key differences. So we've talked a lot about like the similarities and the key requirements and whatnot. And now we're going to have a look at the key differences between the two. So the GCSE exam, which you guys aren't unfortunately taking this year, but in general, GCSE content, there are 6 main topics, whereas in AS level maths, there are 17 different topics. So remember, you have your pure math side, so like say your algebra, your functions, geometry and whatnot, but you also have statistics and mechanics included in those 17 topics. Now, most AS level topics and content build on GCSE content. It's not all completely new things. You won't walk into AS level and think, oh, this is completely different. There are loads and loads of topics which just build on from GCSE or are very, very similar to GCSE, which we're going to have a look at today as well. AS levels in general are more independent than GCSE, so you will find yourself revising more by yourself, doing maybe more practice questions and practice past papers to prepare for your A levels. that's just what happens with A levels. It's more independent. It's a little bit more difficult and challenging in that aspect as well. The questions are less wordy, and more marks for working out is required as well. I'll show you an example later. It's hard for me to explain that without showing you a physical example of a type of A-level question. So we'll come back to that in a second. For GCSE, you're awarded up to 5 marks for a single segment of question, whereas in A-levels, you can be awarded up to 7 marks for a single segment of a question. So again, more marks, harder questions. GCSE questions sort of give you a little hint as well onto what topics you need to use, whereas A levels, they don't. So you kind of have to figure out what you need to use before you start answering the question. So I'm going to answer a few questions before we actually move on to the maths part. So someone said, what is an AS grade? AS grade is the grade that you get after you take your AS exam. So in general, you take your AS exam at the end of year 12. If you do not get a good grade at AS level and you want to apply for a high expected university, will they not accept me due to my A levels? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I know a few people who didn't get what they wanted in AS, but they still applied to quite a few unis and they gave them offers. Usually your AS grades do help towards your predictions, but in general, universities, if they like you, because it also depends on a lot of other factors as well. Some unis offer interviews and they interview you. They do like you and they do give you an offer. Usually your placement at universities are dependent on the A-level grade that you get. So it'll be a conditional offer. They'll say, oh, if you get a B, then we'll offer you a place. Now, someone asked, will there be maths teaching today? Yes, we are going to get onto the maths right now. So GCSE trigonometry, this is the main scope of what you need to know for your GCSEs. Pythagoras theorem, trigonometric ratios, exact values, sine rule, cosine rule, area for triangle. So I've got a few pictures of some of the equations that you go through in GCSE. So you've got your SOHCAHTOA, you've got your cosine rule, your sine rule, and how to label a triangle. All of these things that are here, you need to know for AS level. And they could very well ask you a question which could appear in a GCSE paper as well. So there's nothing stopping them from doing that. Right, let's have a look at an actual example question. So here's an example question. This is a GCSE question. It's not an A-level question. So I'd like everyone to have a go. Before you guys try it out, I'd like you to have a read of the question and then put in the chat, what equation or formula do you need to use to be able to answer this question? So some of you have already answered. Brilliant. So someone asked, will we have to learn all the main trig values? No, actually. One thing which I haven't mentioned as well, for A levels, you're allowed a calculator. So you need to know how to calculate the trig values, but you don't need to memorize them because you have your calculator to do it for you. So that's okay. It's not as bad as like the non-calculator GCSE in terms of that respect. So some of you, yeah, brilliant. Some of you are already answering the question. Some of you have given some good equations as well. The answer is there are actually different things that you can do for this question. So Some of you are saying SOHCAHTOA and you should use tan. Yeah. Some of you are saying the sign rule. Yes, you can use the sign rule in this question as well. So whichever one you decide to use, go ahead and try and answer the question and put your answers in the chat. I'm already seeing some really good answers, which is brilliant. Right, let's go through this. Let's have a look. So for this question, they want you to find out the length BC. So that's this length over here. Yeah. Now, if you decide to use SOHCAHTOA, that is absolutely fine. If you're going to use SOHCAHTOA, you're going to need to use an angle. So let's say that we use our angle 36 degrees. We now need to label the triangle correctly in order to use SOHCAHTOA correctly. So the length opposite the angle, I'm going to label as O, opposite. The hypotenuse I can label as H. Remember, the hypotenuse is always the longest side of the triangle, is always going to be opposite your 90 degrees in a right angle triangle. And then your adjacent is just going to be this line over here. So you're absolutely right with using tan, because I'm interested in my opposite and I'm interested in my adjacent, because I don't really have anything to do with my hypotenuse. So we know that the tan of the angle, so 36 degrees, is equal to opposite over adjacent, because it's SOHCAHTOA. So tan opposite over adjacent. Now the adjacent, we already know what the adjacent is because they've told us that. The adjacent is 8.7. So to work out what our opposite length is going to be, all we need to do is rearrange our equation. So to get rid of the 8.7 on the bottom of that fraction, we're going to multiply 8.7 on both sides. So you've got tan of 36 multiplied by 8.7. And then you just use your calculator to work it out. So tan 36 multiplied by 8.7, you get 6.32, and then the number goes on and so on. But the question is not asking us to give the whole number. The question is asking us to leave our answer to 3 significant figures. So our final answer is going to be 6.32. So well done for everyone who got that, and well done if you added your units as well. Brilliant. Perfect. Right, we're going to have a look at another one. Now, this question is a little bit more challenging. So this one you have to work backwards. So I'd like you guys to have a read of the question, think about what equation will I need to use, and then have a go at working out what is angle X. So Jerry, so when you say, but mostly is it like that? I'm guessing that's back to your question about will universities look at your AS grade? Yeah, it's mostly like your predictions are based from your AS grade. So universities usually do look at your AS grade, but it's not always like the determining factor of whether you'll get a place or you won't get a place. Yeah, and also bear in mind as well, a lot of students, what they do is if they don't get the offers that they like or that they wanted, sometimes they finish their A levels, and then they reapply because then they already have a grade for their A levels, they have the grade that they wanted, and then they can apply to universities, and then you'll get an unconditional offer because you've already done your A levels. There's no condition left. So some students do like to do that as well. Also, you asked, will universities look at GCSEs? Yes, universities look at GCSEs. Also, the elite universities like Oxford and Cambridge definitely have a look at GCSEs as well. So if that's somewhere where you want to apply, that's also important. Brilliant. So some of you are saying half AB sine C. That's brilliant. That is exactly the equation that you're going to need to use. I'll just write it down in case anyone was a bit stuck onto which equation you needed to use. So area brilliant. So if you weren't too sure which equation to use, I've written it at the top. So now have a go at calculating what x is going to be. I'm seeing some really good answers as well, which is brilliant. Hasma, you're asking, does this cover trig identities? No, we're not going to be going through trig identities today. We're mainly going to be going through like say cosine sine rule in a second, and like area of triangles and SOHCAHTOA and whatnot, and how that relates to AS level. Brilliant. I'm just going to wait a little bit longer for some more people to try out the question. Just put your answers in the chat. I'm seeing some really good answers as well. Brilliant. Cool. Right, let's have a go. So this one is, as I said, it's quite a challenging question because you have to work backwards. However, we've got a triangle. The best thing that you could do is label it so that you know what to put where. So since the only angle that we're interested in is x and the only angle that's in our equation is c, it would be best to label that angle c, right? So we know that this length is a lowercase c, because remember, angles are always capitals, lengths are always lowercase. And then the rest of it is completely up to you. If you want to say this part is angle A and this would be length A and that would be angle B and length B, that's absolutely up to you. It doesn't matter which order A and B go in because you're still going to get the right answer at the end. Right. We know what A, B, and C are now. So we can put this into our equation. We can substitute all the values into the equation. Now the area of the triangle they've already given us is 15. Then we've got half multiplied by our length A, which is 4, multiplied by our length B, which is 9, multiplied by sine x. Right, we want to find out what x is, so we're going to need to rearrange the equation and solve for x. So the first thing that I can do, which will probably be the easiest thing to do, is simplify this part first. So a half times 4 times 9 is 18. So we've got 18 multiplied by sine x. Now remember, we want to get x by itself, so really we should get rid of that 18 first. So 15 over 18 equals sine of x, because remember, when you're rearranging, if you're multiplying by 18, you need to divide by 18 on both sides. And we've still got our sine of x. So to work out what x is going to be, you need to do the inverse of sine on both sides. Right, and then you use a calculator to work out the rest of it. So inverse of sine of 15 over 18. So you get 56.4429 and it goes on. That's what x is equal to. Now again, it does tell us how to leave our answer. It says leave it to 3 significant figures. So it's going to be 56.4 degrees. And always remember to leave your units, even if it's angles, it still has a unit. It's always in degrees. So brilliant, well done. Right. AS level trigonometry, have some topics here. These are the topics which are included in AS level trigonometry. Cosine rule, we already know what that is. Sine rule, we've gone through that as well. Area of a triangle, we just did that. Trig graphs, you've seen trigonometric graphs before. Trig identities, which might be a little bit new to you, and solving simple trigonometric equations. So really, the only new topics in AS level trigonometry are the last two. Everything else you've already done at GCSE. The only difference with those topics that you've already seen at GCSE is the way how they ask the question. So as we can see on the right, before I move on, these are the different trig graphs. So you've got the sine graph in yellow, cosine graph in blue, and the tan in orange. Right. So, oops. Right. For AS level trigonometry, for both AS and A level maths, you'll be given a formula sheet just in general for your exam. However, they don't contain all the formula that you need, just like GCSE, right? So you're expected to know and memorize the following for trigonometry. So you need to memorize sine rule, cosine rule, area for triangle, and this last one is a trig identity. We won't be covering that today because it is a new topic, but the first three you already know what they are and we've already seen them. So that's not too bad, right? Here is a typical sort of like AS level trigonometry question. What I'd like you guys to do is read the question, understand what it's asking for, and then have a go at answering it. Now, I've given a hint at the top. I've said draw the triangle first before attempting the question. With A-level maths, it's usually the case. They'll ask you questions like this, not a lot of context, probably not a drawing, and you'll have to draw it yourself and be able to figure out the answer that way. So have a go at doing this and see what answer you get. So someone asks, what can you do with maths A level? A lot. Maths A level, depending on if you want to go to university or if you don't, maths A level can be really helpful. Like say if you decide not to go to university, but you want to take on an apprenticeship, there's quite a lot of accounting apprenticeships where you take your accounting qualifications instead of going to university and getting a degree. So it's helpful there. And when you're going to university, there are a lot of subjects which require you to have a maths A level, or you're at an advantage if you have a maths A level. So I highly recommend it, regardless of what you want to do in the future. Maths A level will in some way help. So yeah, guys, once you have a go, put your answers in the chat and we'll go through it in a second. So Jerison, you asked them, do we need to know that formula you have written for our GCSEs? Right, in the formulae that I showed you, so it had the cosine rule, the sine rule, the area for triangle, and that last one at the end was like a trig identity. The only thing you do not need to know for your GCSEs is that trig identity. Yeah, the rest of it is fine. So area of a triangle, all the general things that you've already gone through at GCSE. If anything looks completely new in this session and anything that you don't need to know for your GCSE, I'll make it very, very clear, because I know you're still studying towards your GCSEs and your internal assessments. Okay, so what do I do if I don't know how to do the reverse area triangle trigonometry question for GCSE? So in GCSE in general, whatever question you do, you get marks for working out. So if you manage to get all the way to the end, but you didn't know how to do the inverse of sine, you will most likely get like 2 or 3 out of 4 marks for that question. Yeah, because you will get working out marks. So it's not a complete like deal breaker, you're going to get 0 for the question. No, not all. The best thing to do is try and get as far as you can, but don't skip the question. That would probably be the worst thing to do, because then you definitely don't get any marks. At least if you tried, you can pick up a few along the way. Right. Has anyone tried this question out? So I've got an answer. Brilliant. Let's go through this one together. Right. So I've advised that you draw the triangle first. So let's just draw the triangle. Then we're going to label it. So in a triangle ABC, so let's just label A, B, and C. So AB has a length of 8 centimeters. Side BC has a length 7 centimeters. And side AC has a length 6 centimeters. Right, it's asking you to find angle ABC. So that is this angle over here. Right, this is a question that they could ask you in GCSE. The only difference is they would draw the triangle for you and then you'd be able to see it without you having to draw it yourself. Yeah. Now, who knows which equation you would need to use in order to answer? Brilliant. Perfect. Exactly. It's going to be the cosine rule. So let me write it down quickly. So this is the cosine rule. Oops. A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC. Oops. Cos A. Yeah. So we're going to end up using this equation now. Some of you might have already memorized what it is when you rearrange it. Some of you might only know it this way. Now, you don't have to remember both sides. As long as you remember how to rearrange equations properly, you only need to remember one. So what I'm going to do first of all is show you how to rearrange this properly. And then we're going to go through and put in our numbers and find what that angle is going to be. So rearranging it, I can subtract my B squared and subtract my C squared and put them on the other side. So you've got A squared minus B squared minus C squared equals minus 2BC cos A. And then you can divide both sides by minus 2BC to get cos A by itself. So cos A will be by itself on one side. On the other side, you're going to divide by minus 2BC. So you've got A squared minus B squared minus C squared divided by minus 2BC. And really how you probably see it in your textbooks, it will look like this. So you've got your cos A equals B squared plus C squared minus A squared over 2BC. Now, the only reason for this is because they've multiplied both the top and the bottom by -1. So everything on the top is being multiplied by -1. Everything on the bottom is being multiplied by -1. It's just so you have less negative values because it's a little bit more easier to work with this than this one over here. Yeah, so now that we've rearranged it, we can go ahead and find the angle. So you could relabel the triangle if you really wanted to. So you could say this here would be A, because remember, we're working out angle A. It will get a little bit confusing, so I'm going to try not to do that. But what you should get is you should have your cos of your angle A, and then substitute in your other values. So you should have 8 squared plus 7 squared minus 6 squared over 2 multiplied by 8 multiplied by 7. Yep. And then use your calculator to work that out. So I'm going to quickly do that. So one thing which I would like to say as well, try and leave when you're working out questions, never round. until you finish the question. So I'm going to leave it as a fraction because that's how my calculator is giving it to me, as a fraction in its exact value. And then the last thing to do is to do the inverse of cos. To work out what angle A is. And you should get 46 to 3 significant figures. It will be 46.6 degrees. And that's how you would answer that question. Hopefully, you guys were following and it made sense. If you would like to go through that again, it is going to be recorded, so it will be on the MyTutor YouTube page. So look out for it tomorrow, and hopefully once you have another go and have another look through how I answered it, it will make a lot more sense to you. Someone asked, are we allowed a compass and a protractor and a ruler for this question? No, because they will want you to work it out using the cosine rule. And even if you did use a compass and a protractor and a ruler, it's not, you might not get an accurate answer for your angle, because it's harder to construct triangles without the angle first, only using the lengths. So always make sure that you use a cosine rule. Right, the second question we'll quickly go through as well. This one's not too bad. Remember, your equation for area of a triangle is AB sine C. So, or half AB sine C, sorry. So all we need to do is use the angle that we got before and multiply by the lengths which are touching that angle. So we've got half multiplied by our 8, multiplied by our 7, multiplied by sine of 46.6. And then do that calculation on your calculator, and you should get 20.33. Or if you want to leave it to 3 significant figures, you can say 20.3 and it's centimeters squared. Brilliant. Right, some questions. So why can we not use the normal cosine formula? Okay, so one thing which you need to remember for your GCSE is you can only use SOHCAHTOA and Pythagoras theorem when you have a right-angled triangle. You can't use SOHCAHTOA or Pythagoras theorem if you do not have a right-angled triangle. When you don't have a right-angled triangle, so like a triangle like this, that's when you use sine rule, cosine rule, and this area for a triangle. Yeah. But for right angle triangles, you can literally just use half times base times height, and you can use SOHCAHTOA and you can use Pythagoras theorem, but you can only use those with right angle triangles. Right. Let me see with some, so some of you were asking probably my how I got to the answer, how I got to the A, B, and C's. So let me get the so with this, remember your angle matches your length. So if it's a capital A, that's my angle, it has to match my the opposite length of my angle is my lowercase of the letter. So this is the angle, this is the opposite length. So because I was using this angle, this would now be my A, my angle A, and this would be the opposite length. So this is my lowercase a. Obviously, because of the way how they've made us label the triangle, it's a little bit difficult to use the equation. You could, however, swap this. So you can say, okay, angle B equals B squared minus by A squared minus C squared instead. So always remember your angle and your opposite length have the same letter, just angle is uppercase, length is lowercase. Yeah. Some of you are asking within the area. So again, with the area, let me just show you quickly as well. If you have a triangle, any triangle that you have, if this is your angle and you want to work out the area of a triangle, you're always going to use this length and this length, always the lengths that are touching that angle. And that would be your A, your B, and this would be your angle C. Yeah. So always the lengths that are touching your angle, that's the one that you use for your area of a triangle. Right. Brilliant. So hopefully that does make sense. Again, if it's a little bit confusing, remember it will be on the My Tutor YouTube page, so you will have a chance to look over it again. Yeah. Right. Let's have a look at some tips before we get on to the Kahoot. So some tips with trigonometry, like the difference between like GCSE and A-level trigonometry. So first of all, the questions will definitely be less wordy. They're very to the point. This is the angle, this is an angle, this is a length, work out the area or work out the other angle. You have to really get used to drawing and when it gets to A-level, because even me, I'm studying at university doing maths, I couldn't answer that question without drawing the triangle first. So it's really hard to do things in your head. So always make sure there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it as well. Draw whichever scenario is happening. If you're using a cube, if you're using a triangle, anything, as long as you draw it and you label it correctly, this will help you to answer the question a lot easier and more accurately. Leave your answers as exact numbers unless otherwise stated. If a question is asking you to work out a length or work out an angle, the best thing that you can do is leave it as an exact number. So if you're working with surds, leave it as a surd. If you're working with fractions, leave it as a fraction. Even though you have a calculator, it's always best not to round your answer unless they tell you to leave it to 2 decimal places or 3 significant figures. Yeah. And anytime that you are working with decimals and fractions, never round too early. That works in GCSE as well. If you round too early, your final answer will probably be a few decimal places off. So do not round too early and you round at the end of your calculation. And just in general, if you decide to do A-level maths and in September you'll be starting AS maths, the best thing that you can do to prepare for it is to revise GCSE content. Because as you see, a lot of the topics overlap and your teachers, whoever's going to be teaching you A-level maths will probably start from a point that you've already seen at GCSE and just building on that. So always make sure that you are revising that old content. So what we will do now, let me see if it's, yeah, let me share the Kahoot. So hopefully everyone can see the pin for the Kahoot. Let me know if you can. Whoops. Just widen it a bit. There we go. So what I'd like everyone to do, I'm going to put the pin in the chat. I'd like you all to log in and have a go at these questions. Again, they're GCSE questions. The questions might be asked a little bit differently from how you're used to, but they are GCSE questions. They are questions which you'll know how to answer, but you will need a calculator. So if you don't have a calculator, make sure you run and go and get one now. Right, so someone asked, do I need to know the non-right angle formula for GCSE? Yes. So sine rule, cosine rule, area for triangle, you need to know those for your GCSEs. Yeah. Right. Someone asked, would maths A-level be good for accounting, finance, or business? Absolutely. A-level maths, not only do you go through like pure maths, like algebra and stuff, which is very important for all of those industries, you also go through statistics. Statistics is probably the most used part of maths in those industries. So that's really important. Right. I'm going to start the Kahoot now. If you haven't been able to log in, remember the pin is in the chat and it will also be at the bottom of the screen. Brilliant. So have a go at the first one. So how many exams will you have to take for AS Maths? Brilliant, 2. You only need to take 2 exams. Yeah, depending on the specification, they'll be a little bit different for each one, but in general, across all exam boards, it's only 2. So well done for everyone who got that. True or false? All AS level maths exams have the same structure regardless of the exam board. Brilliant. It's false. The exam structure is different for each exam board. No exam board is the same when it comes to the actual AS exam. The marks change, the length of time for the exam changes, and also the content in each exam changes as well. So make sure when you are going through it, you're using the right specification. So well done, everyone. True or false, there are many overlapping topics with GCSE and AS level maths. Just to recap as well, today's session was on trigonometry. Tomorrow's session will be on proof and algebra. So brilliant. Yeah, it's true. There are so many overlapping topics with GCSE, and the trick is if you can revise and you're still up to scratch with your GCSE maths, A-level maths won't be as bad. So just remember, even though you do have a summer holidays, make sure you are sort of keeping on top of it because it'll make your life a lot easier when it gets to September. So you can be awarded an A star in AS level maths. Can you or can you not? Is that true or false? Brilliant. It's false. You can't get an A star at AS level maths. You can, the highest one you can get is an A. You can get an A star at A level maths. Brilliant. So well done. Right. What is the length PQ? Calculation question. So here's the triangle. This one's a bit quick. It's a formula that we haven't used today. Brilliant. Right. So here you can use Pythagoras. It's a right angle triangle. So you can do 12 squared plus 4.5 squared, and then you square root it. Always remember to square root it at the end. The only thing is that if I open up the triangle again, it's in centimeters. So make sure that your answer is also centimeters and not meters. So brilliant. Well done, everyone. Well done to the top 5. True or false? The area of a triangle is equal to AB sine C? Brilliant. It is false. It's a half AB sine C. It's not AB sine C. So always remember to multiply it by a half. It is very important. Brilliant. Well done to the top 5. Right. Which function does the graph below represent? Which one is it? So some of you are asking, do you need to know the complicated cosine formula that I just used? It's exactly the same. All I did was I rearranged it. So it's still the same generic cosine formula that you need to know for GCSE. It was just a rearrangement of it so you can find the angle instead of a length. So usually those are the tougher questions. So make sure that you do know how to rearrange that equation, or you could plug in the numbers first and then rearrange it. You could also do it that way. That's absolutely fine. Right, brilliant. It was the tan one. So if we have a look, the tan one, it's like you've got a curve and then it happens again. A few like angles later, then it happens again, it happens again. It's the only one that sort of repeats separately. Whereas the sine rule, it's a continuous curve, and the cosine rule is also a continuous curve. The tan one is the one that is weird. And yes, this graph is in radians, it's not in degrees. So brilliant for those of you who spotted it. Well done. Right, well done to the top 5. Have a go at this question. So which of the following images correctly represents the triangle ABC? So as I said, in A level, you have to get used to drawing these triangles. So have a go at spotting which one is the correct representation. So Jerison, you said the formula that we do not need to know is the half AB sine C. So you need to know how to use it. You need to know how to find the area of a triangle when it's not a right angle triangle. When it's a right angle triangle, it's fairly simple. It's just half times base times height. But when it's not a right angle triangle, that's when it gets a bit more tricky. Brilliant. Right. So really we want length AB to have 13 centimeters, length BC to have 10 centimeters, and angle BAC to have 30 degrees. So if you have a look, the only one that has all of those 3 properties and also in the right places on the triangle is the orange one. So brilliant. Well done. Well done, everyone. Well done to the top 5. Right, this one's worth double the points. So what is angle A? So if you have any more questions, guys, make sure that you put them in the Q&A. It could be anything to do with A-level maths. It doesn't necessarily have to be about trigonometry either. If you just wanted to know like the gaps between GCSE and A-level maths, or what happens like in year 13 when you move from AS to A-level, just put your question, sorry, in the Q&A. Yes, you do need to know half A, B, sine C for GCSE. You need to know how to find the area of a triangle. And that is something that you need to know how to do. And if any of you are wondering why they're different, what you should do is try using half A, B, sine C on a right angle triangle. And you'll notice something. You'll notice why right angle triangle is just a half A times B, and with non-right angle triangles it's a half AB sine C. Right, let's have a look. So, who can put in the chat, which equation did you need to use to be able to work out angle A? Brilliant. So a lot of you saying tan. Did anyone else do it any other way? Cool. So all of you pretty much use tan. Yeah, you can absolutely use tan. Yeah. To work out angle A. So again, what you should do, what I advise you to do, is to label your triangle. That's probably the best thing. So if you have your angle, your opposite is going to be your 5 meters and your adjacent is going to be 6 centimeters. So you know tan of A equals 5/6. And then you do the inverse of tan on both sides. So the angle A equals the inverse of tan of 5/6. And then you get to the correct answer. So brilliant. Perfect. Right, well done to the top 5. Last question, double the points. So what is the length of AB? So here's your triangle. Have a go. What is the length of AB? So someone asked, is A-level maths really stressful? A-level maths is, I would, from personal experience, I would say A-level maths is a little bit more stressful than GCSEs. There's a lot more content for each of your subjects. So whether you do maths and any other subject as well, in general, it's a little bit more stressful. But also the stressful side comes from also applying to university. Like say GCSEs, it's stressful because you know that, okay, you need to get good GCSEs and whatnot. A-levels, in my opinion, is a little bit more stressful because you know that you need your A-levels to be able to get into university. So I guess that's where some of your stress also comes from, like how important it is. When would I have learned these trigonometry formulas? Okay, right. If you're in year 10, you probably haven't seen them just yet because it is the higher only content and it is challenging. If you're in year 11 and you haven't seen them yet, if you're doing a higher exam, it could maybe be because of the COVID disruptions with school and maybe your teachers haven't gotten to it yet. That could be another reason, but it is in GCSE textbooks and any revision guides that you're using. So if you haven't been able to go through that topic, make sure that you do go through it in your textbooks or revision guides. And also, again, this session will be on YouTube. So definitely have a look over it just to see if there's anything that you'd like to go over again or anything that you've missed. All right, brilliant. So I'm guessing one of the things that I said answered your question. Perfect. Right, brilliant. It is 5.2 centimeters. So if I open it up, what equation do you need to be able to answer this question? What equation did everyone use to answer this one to find the length of AB? Brilliant. Brilliant, exactly. Use the sine rule. Now, the sine rule is the one that we didn't actually go through during the session. However, just for anyone who is a little bit unsure about the sine rule, it's the sine of A over the length A equals the sine of B over the length B. Now, in this case, we've got angle A and C, and we've got the length lowercase a, but we want to work out the length AB. Now, really, this is opposite the angle C. So this would be the length C. So what you would do is you would do 7 over sine 60 equals the length AB over sine 40, and then you multiply both sides by sine 40 and you will get your answer in centimeters. So that is 5.2 centimeters. So well done, everyone. Brilliant. I hope this session was helpful, if not insightful. Well done, third place to Vince. Well done, P1, second place, and First place, Kira. Fantastic. Right. Well done to the runners up as well, Adam and Kessia. Our sessions, so we've got a session tomorrow and our final session on Thursday. Tomorrow's session will be on proof in algebra. Again, it will be bridging that link between GCSE and A-level maths in terms of those two subjects. And then our last one will be on exponentials and logarithms. So that might be a little bit new for some of you as well, because exponentials is the only one that you might have seen at GCSE. Someone said, can my video and audio be seen? I'm not sure because I'm sharing my screen, so I can't really see everyone at the moment. But I hope that everyone enjoyed enjoyed the Kahoot and the session that we did today. And I hope to see you tomorrow. So either morning or afternoon. I hope everyone has a really good day. Right. Bye.